I'm Stasi Poulos. I'm the president of Mindstar Aviation. John is over here, Billy's over here, also helping us out today. And part of what I wanted to do today is go through a variety of things that we've had in our software for quite some time now, but it had been limited to the G1000 for the longest time, not for any good reason other than there was enough knobs and buttons on it to be able to do certain things. But to get to that, I have to go backwards a little bit. So our software that you see on our website, you only see about 4 or 5 products on our website. We actually have about 40. Most of our products are sold to professional simulator builders. So the likes of Redbird and some others like them who build certified flight training devices. That's what our software typically goes into. When we do that, obviously we have to go through the FAA process and everything that goes on with that, which is a long, arduous thing. And the FAA does not certify software, they certify hardware with the software in it. So for us, it means that every time we bring on a new customer that's building another simulator, we go through the whole thing over again. So now here we are, I don't know how many dozens of times later, and we keep going through the same process. So it's not quite as easy for the software guys as it is for the hardware guys. They get to do it once and they're done. But because we're working in the training regime, in the training environment, a lot of the things that we've always needed to do in the simulator involve A, meeting what those FAA specifications require of us to make it a certified flight simulator, and B, what makes a scenario interesting and dynamic enough to teach somebody more than just your normal stuff in the simulator. Part of that comes into the idea, and things like Pilot Edge help with this. You're all alone in this big, gigantic world of the simulator. There's nobody else there. In the real world, there's always someone in your way. I've been flying since 1987. So I started flying before there was even GPSs in airplanes. And it was horrible because you were always trying to find where's the traffic? Where's the guy that you're going to run into? And now that you've got equipment like this, you see them here long before you ever see them with your eyes, and it's still scary because you don't know where the heck they are. But one of the things we decided to start doing is incorporate some more dynamic things into the simulation than just native flight sim. So, of show of hands, do any of you already use this G1000 or any others? Okay. So, as you know, the G1000 is not just one system. It's different in every airplane you fly it in. So if you fly it in a Cessna 172, it's not quite the same as it is in a 182 Cessna or in a Mooney, or the one in the King Air is different. Every one of them has variations. And part of this is because Garmin does not sell a thing called the G1000. They sell a platform. And each aircraft manufacturer gets to tailor that platform to whatever they feel they want their airplane to portray. And some companies take it a lot farther, like Cirrus rebranded it as the Perspective. It's the G1000 still, but it's just they branded it as Perspective. And other companies like Diamond and Cessna, they don't give it a special name other than something simple like NAV3 or something like that. But the bottom line is each company is doing a little bit something different with the G1000. So what we had done is we borrowed this soft key right here at the bottom, in between the words engine and map. And we had put some features in here to be able to trigger various failures, what would happen on the PFD or the MFD when certain types of failures would occur in the equipment on the airplane. When we do this, we also have to build instructor stations and interfaces to instructor stations to make all this happen. That's not the best way to be triggering failures, especially in a real-world training environment. You have to do it from an instructor tablet. So there's events built in behind the scenes to do a lot of this. So one of the things that we had built a long time ago was the ability to start making traffic show up where we wanted it to show up, or more importantly, where the instructor wanted it to show up. Because in the real world training environment, again, you're in this giant world all by yourself, and the student in the simulator doesn't really have an opportunity to learn how to work around other people. Yes, you can put Pilot Edge on there. Yes, you can put Airspace VR on there or VATSIM. And you might have other people in the environment with you, but you can't really predict what's going to happen. So we took a lot of those features. We had put them buried into the G1000 for a long time. But what we decided to do is package a lot of the things that we had been doing as specialty items for a long time, put them into its own little package, rip them out of the G1000 so that people who use our GNS or our ProLine 21 or any of our autopilots or other smaller GPSs can still take advantage of some of these features. So out of that came this idea of a product that can host all these various little features that we started putting together. And we named it FS Envoy. Quite honestly, the name reflects what it is. It's your representative on the simulator. So you can be out here on an iPad or on even a separate PC, and you log in to your simulator computer and give it things to do. So you can now, at home, have the same kind of setup as a professional flight simulator. You can have an iPad or a phone or a second computer acting as your instructor station, firing commands over there at the main sim. SimConnect made that easier when FSX came out and onwards into Prepared. But we do other things beyond just SimConnect. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of things of Envoy as far as the simulation environment, and then I'm going to go farther into some of the other features that we have related to it. So if we were sitting here in this particular situation and we had a student who was learning to fly and taxiing, for example, down this taxiway, and the instructor wants to teach this student what would happen if you get up on this runway. I have to use my glasses now. And I'm going to add a piece of traffic that's holding short on the left side of the runway, and I'm going to make it fly and do a low pass after it's done. So I'll just click Activate. So what the software does is it does exactly what I told it. It calculates what the traffic pattern would be like for that airplane, and it starts him flying around. And then I can add other ones one by one. So if somebody was up there in the run-up area, I could have the airplane taxi by, and the student would have to learn how to cooperate and get around this other airplane that's taking off. It works with any of the AI on your simulator, so it's not limited to just certain ones that we install. So this guy here is going to do his takeoff, but I'm going to eject him out of the environment unceremoniously like that. Just to prove that there are some fun things in here, we can put this guy on, let's put him on short final, and let's do a low pass. And if I turn him on, he's big. It may seem funny, but we have used this for students who are sitting there at the hold short line, and they're just going to taxi right out. Don't even look either way to see if there's anybody on the runway or anybody coming in. So we'll fire up the Enterprise. Make that blow by their face and see what they do. Again, everything we do has sort of got that training spin on it. And it's always interesting to me that in the sim community, in the simmer community, most people who fly sims, they know more about the airplanes than the pilots who fly the real ones. Because you have the opportunity to spend time in front of these avionics and really drill down into what they do. A lot of pilots, they'll know just enough of the features to get through the flight at hand, and they may never drill into some of the deeper functions. So some of the things that sound pretty simple from a sim world perspective, when you get into real world flight training, something weird happens to people's heads. They just forget all this stuff about looking both ways before you cross the street. We packaged some of that stuff into Envoy. Some of the other things we put in there is the ability to quickly switch back and forth between different times of day, because when you're sitting in the simulator, you might be doing several approaches in daytime conditions, and then next thing you're going to do the same approaches in night conditions. And we've always found it cumbersome that you have to exit the simulation, especially in the professional ones, because you can't grab a keyboard and change things on the simulation when you're on a professional sim. One of the criteria of certifying an AATD is the instructor and the student can't interact with a keyboard. So we can't just go up there and do the things we're used to doing in flight sim, just go up to the menu, click weather themes and do something. We have to do it a different way. So again, a lot of these features start getting gathered together into this thing we called Envoy. We can also slew the airplane around, which is something that very customarily done by people in the sim world, but in the professional sims you can't often do this, and it's a pain to try to do this in some of them that don't have the interface to do it. But as we started putting a lot of this stuff together, what we realized is there's another function that was going to be important to be incorporated into this, and that has to do with what you've probably already seen out here in the hall, in the exhibit hall, and that is the number of pieces of hardware that are now available to simulate a piece of equipment like a GNS 430 or a 530 or a G1000. You go out there, you see Noble flight simulations, you'll see Real Sim Gear and a few others. They're all putting together really nice pieces of hardware. But the problem that happens when they contact us and want to integrate our software into the hardware is that all the burden falls on the customer to unpack everything and put it in the right place. And that ends up falling back on us doing all the tech support. The hardware manufacturers are really good at building really nice hardware. And we do our job of building software as good as we can build it. But it all falls apart when somebody who just wants to fly, they don't know what a config file, a panel config, or an aircraft config, or this folder or that folder scattered all over the machine. What in the world are they telling me to do when they tell me to install this stuff? And we deal with these support calls all day long. So over the years, we've been building our various products with our own installer and our own scripting language that allows us to go in and modify panel configs and aircraft configs and DLL XMLs and all this other stuff. So what we incorporated into Envoy is the ability for vendors who are selling other products, not our own, to ride on the installation capabilities of Envoy. So you can install a product through the Envoy interface and it will start to take some of that burden off the customer. How many of you have to deal with or have ever dealt with aircraft configs and panel configs? That's only a few. So the rest of you, I'm assuming, don't really either need to or haven't learned how to go in there and modify this stuff. And those of you who do it know full well, if we do it not quite right, you can make a real mess out of your simulator. Sometimes very minor looking changes can take down the whole sim and then it doesn't even launch and now you can't even get into the menus anymore to change it back the way it was. So we've put together in the Envoy product the ability for vendors to distribute their products through our platform. This is still early preview of this stuff. This is not ready for public consumption yet, but we are looking for people to help test it and for people to start giving us feedback on it as the interface gets better and better. There's a lot of mechanical stuff in it right now. There's a lot of places where there's buttons where there will ultimately be graphical interfaces, but the machinery inside works. And the way it actually works is what we do is we put a web server on your simulator. Now, it's not a web server you can reach from the outside world. It's a web server that responds internally to your own network. But that way you can take another computer or your iPad or your phone and use Safari or Chrome or whatever browser you want and connect to your simulator computer and start interacting with the Envoy program that's sitting there on the simulator machine. So that way the simulator becomes the server and your device becomes the unit that you use to interact with it. So that distribution capability is the thing that we're really excited about, because we've got already several vendors who are talking to us about how to start distributing their products through this interface. Now, as part of all this, the other thing that has always come up, and this gets into the more nuts and bolts of when you're starting to mess with some of this stuff in flight sim, is we came up with a product that it's not the greatest of names. We called it Sim Supporter. I was told that it sounds like athletic supporter, but what am I going to do? But at any rate, it's aware of many versions of flight sim. In fact, we need to add prepared for on there because it's now getting wider and wider distribution. But what this allows us to do is to quickly browse around various parts of the simulation and the folders associated with it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close down some of the ones that I don't have on this machine. Just leave it with FSX and prepared and real nav. So in the menu, we can quickly jump to many of the folders scattered all over the machine to do support. And we started distributing this with our products, and now we're rolling it into the Envoy product, and it's going to go out with that for free as well. So it gives you quick access to the app data folder, the sounds folder, the aircraft folder. They're all scattered all over the machine. And it's sometimes cumbersome even for us as people who know what we're doing to find where something might be. So this gives us a way to quickly jump into these folders. It's just a navigator to let me go to wherever the various folders for that particular version of Flight Sim are. And it's aware, it goes in and reads the registry and finds out where things have been installed and drives you to them. If I need to go in there, for example, and edit the FSX config, I don't need to use Notepad. I can go in here and just find the section I'm looking for like that and go straight to it. So again, for the more technical people in the room, this gives you a way to navigate around some of these files and make changes in a little bit more easy way than just using Notepad or Notepad++ or something like that. Some of the other things that we have in here, though, you'll see Aircraft Browser, Module Manager, and I'll stop there for a minute. So let's talk about Module Manager first. So Module Manager gives me a way to look at the DLL XML in a much more graphical way than the way that you used to do it with Notepad and that kind of stuff. So I can quickly go in here and just find individual items that I want to either enable or disable. Just click on the checkbox, it's done. I don't have to browse all over the machine to find that file in the app data folder. It's just a tool that lets me find things a little easier. In the case of like FS Envoy, if there are additional properties for that particular program or DLL, we can have additional menus pop up that give me details about the particular product that we're working with. So it just, again, this is all stuff just to make the work easier, just to make your managing of your simulator a little easier to do. And then the last one, which really we use all the time, is the aircraft browser. So the aircraft browser just pulls up this view of all of the airplanes on your simulator. So I can pop open any of them and see all the variations of the airplanes on my sim, and I can drill into them specifically by clicking on any of the columns. So if I need to go to a particular section, like this one named the 172 SP Paint 2, just double click on it and it takes me straight to that section, and I can look at it and do whatever I need to do with it. And just like in the FSX config or prepared config, it breaks down all the individual tabs on the edge so you can see what's going on, see where you are in the file instead of scrolling through it and finding everything the hard way. So a lot of this is tailored towards support, but it's tailored towards the user who really is trying to take more control of their simulator. So to a great degree, what we're trying to do is take the burden off of making all this simulation stuff so hard to manage, install, support, and all that, and just get you going faster. So when it comes to letting vendors use the install infrastructure of the sim, of Envoy and the sim supporter, and letting people browse through their airplanes a little easier and find what they've got. In fact, if you need to find if you've got a specific gauge in a specific airplane, I want to find where, let's say the MPI G1000 might be. I can do a find, and I find immediately all the airplanes where that gauge is. There's times where you're going to upgrade a gauge, what airplanes are affected by what you're trying to do. So this gives you a quick way to figure that out. It also allows me to look at the flight files on the airplane or on the simulator, and I can drill into those as well. So very quickly I can see what the various flight files reference for their airplanes. If a particular flight file references an airplane that's missing, the line turns red, or any part of that airplane that's missing, the line turns red to tell you that there's something wrong with that aircraft. I can't tell you how many support calls we get where the customers just got a simple problem. They go to launch their simulator and it crashes and they don't know why. Typically it's because the default flight has some sort of error in it and they can't even get the default flight to come up. So again, we can very quickly find those things through these kinds of tools to help us find out what's going on. So over time, what we hope to do is to expand on these things that we've, for the last 10 years, been sort of developing and building and make them available to everybody so it will make more sense for people to manage their sims in a more logical way. With the part with the vendors, we're really looking forward to that because the more throughput we have with people getting excited about pushing their products through the Envoy infrastructure, the easier it's going to be for them, the easier it's going to be for customers to install stuff on their machines, and it's just going to make this whole effort, we hope, to be easier for everybody to manage. Any questions before I jump to? Yes?
Are there any plans to work with X-Plane?
So, yes, but we have always, for the last 10 plus years, been a FSX and prepared shop. We have a lot of people asking us for migrating our products over to X-Plane. And within about a year ago, we really started more diligently looking for people to help make that process happen. I can't tell you when, but we're making progress in that direction. So, and you know, I'll say the same thing I say to everybody who asks me the question. You know, which one's better? Well, they both have pluses and minuses. The X-Plane's got fantastic graphics, and the aerodynamics in that thing are phenomenal. And then the flexibility of prepared gives you a lot of stuff as a developer that makes it easy to put stuff together. So I'm not going to sit here and say one's better than the other. Unfortunately, we standardized on one, and we're a good decade into this, and it's not an easy conversion. It's a rewrite. But we're looking at that really hard. Yes, sir. FS Envoy, ENVOY. And we actually have the beginnings of a website out on the web, www.fsenvoy.com, which will be expanding and talking more about what we're planning to do with it. Other questions? Yes?
Do you have tools for manipulating the flight plans built in for the AI aircraft?
So part of what the tool that you saw there that moves the airplanes around, it does exactly that. So it builds flight plans that it pushes through SimConnect directly to the AI. What we think we're going to do with that is give you a way to save those out so you can make repeatable things. Instead of just on demand, do exactly repeatable events. But we are riding on exactly that technology. So all the stuff that the AI uses, that's how we're moving those planes around. Anybody else? Well, I think that's actually getting pretty close to my time. Is that right, Billy? Am I getting close? All right. Well, again, please stop by and see us. We'd love to talk to you more about either our G1000, our Avidyne, our Proline 21s, any of our products, Envoy that we're really excited about. The one last thing that I really didn't have time because I didn't have a really solid internet connection, you can see it at our booth out here. Part of FS Envoy also has the equivalent of FlightAware for simulators. So if you're running the FS Envoy program and you choose to participate in the broadcast of your simulator's position, you can go onto the fsenvoy.com live map page and you can see all the other simulators in the world that are flying around and what they might be doing and what weather conditions they're flying in. Sometimes you'll see somebody's engine has quit and you'll see what they're doing. So it gives you a good view of what other people are doing. There's other products that do things within their realm, like Pilot Edge has the map that shows where airplanes are. VATSIM has that too. This does not conflict with those. In fact, it's aware of what ATC system you're on. So it will tell you, this airplane here is using VATSIM, this one here is using Pilot Edge, this one's using nothing. But it gives you a view of what's going on in the sim world in a much more global sense. Other questions? How much does it cost? So the base part of the Envoy product is going to be free. We've been rolling this out with a lot of our products already. Some of the things that are inside there will not be. But our plan is that the store, the part where vendors get to push their products through, that's where you will pay for their products if it's a payware product through the Envoy interface. There are probably features of Envoy that will be payware features, but we want to get this out. We want to get this into people's hands. So there's going to be some base level of functionality that will not have a price on it. Yes, sir. Say that one more time. You just made a fractional mention of Proline 21. Mm-hmm. It is, in fact, we just finished, we finished the development and we're starting the beta testing with EagleSoft with their XLS citation, and it's going to have our Proline 21 in it. So you'll be able to see that. It's good. It went into beta, I think, just last week. And it's been a kind of a long haul because we have a professional version of the Proline 21, and we had to be careful that we didn't put anything into the one we give out for 50, 60 bucks that is not the same stuff that we give out for many thousands of dollars. And that was part of the long road to hoe. But we got there. And it's a really, really robust package. For those of you who don't know the Proline 21, that's primarily what's in the citation jet, or in the older citation jets before they started moving to G1000s. And the King Airs, a lot of the King Airs came with Proline 21. It's just a glass cockpit predecessor of some of the newer Garmin and Avidyne things. I spent a lot of time in a King Air to learn the Proline 21, as did some of the other developers. And I'll tell you, being a Garmin guy and trying to learn the Proline 21, it is a different beast. Everything you think you know about entering a flight plan and managing a flight plan, it is not the same in the Proline 21. So if you do get this EagleSoft XLS airplane, and there's going to be another one following soon after that also has the Proline in it, a different variant of it, you'll have to study. It'll take some work to learn how to use it because it works like the real plane and there's a lot going on. Other questions? Bueller? Anybody? Okay, well please come see us at the booth. Thank you for letting me drone on for a little bit about this stuff. And hope to see you either at our booth or at an event somewhere in the world. Thank you.